You're tuned to 100.5 KMEM FM, Memphis, Missouri. KMEM covers the following counties. In Missouri, Adair, Clark, Knox, Lewis, Macon, Marion, Putnam, Schuyler, Scotland, Shelby, and Sullivan. In Illinois, Adams and Hancock. And in Iowa, Appanoose, Davis, Henry, Jefferson, Lee, Monroe, Van Buren, and Wapello. The following is a test of the emergency alert system.
Looking for an exciting, affordable summer getaway? Look a little closer at Mall of America. The Twin Cities has been voted the #2 most affordable vacation destination by Livability.com. And one of the biggest reasons for this is Mall of America. So this summer, get your MOA on. Start with Nickelodeon Universe, the nation's first all-Nick theme park. Soar through the air on 27 different rides for all ages, including the brand new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shell Shock. Then the new Mysteries of the Rainforest exhibit at Minnesota Sea Life Aquarium with caiman crocodiles and live piranha. Followed by Sky Deck Sports Grill and Lanes for high-tech bowling or a killer video game tournament with the family. But make time to fit in all the unique destinations, Lego, American Girl, and the amazing Mirror Maze. In between all 520 shops that Mall of America is famous for. From Michael Kors to Microsoft, you'll find the newest stores, the best brands, and tons of choices for every style and budget. Plus, no sales tax on clothing and shoes. It all adds up to an unforgettable summer vacation. Explore the place for family fun this summer. Mall of America. Find out more at mallofamerica.com.
Well, we can look for sunny and hot conditions today and tomorrow with a high right around 105. Tonight and tomorrow evening, we can look for lows somewhere in the mid to upper 70s. And then tomorrow night, we see a 40% chance of a shower or a thunderstorm. And on Thursday, the rain chance stands at 30%. Weather on KMEM.
91 degrees at KMEM.
Well, we can look for sunny and hot conditions today and tomorrow with a high right around 105. Tonight and tomorrow evening, we can look for lows somewhere in the mid to upper 70s. And then tomorrow night, we see a 40% chance of a shower or a thunderstorm. And on Thursday, the rain chance stands at 30%. Weather on KMEM.
This is the award-winning broadcast of Healthy University, bringing health and vitality to you and your family. Brought to you by Scotland County Hospital in Memphis. Now, here's your host, Dr. Randy Tobler.
Doctor, my eyes have seen the years and the slow parade of fears without crying. Now I want.
How you doing? Welcome to the show that'll get you healthy if you're not, and it'll keep you healthy if you are. It's Healthy University on Tuesdays, KMEM 100.5.
No copay, no deductible.
How's Mr. Budd? I hear you got a colonoscopy.
At the ticket booth at Six Flags.
Oh, a different kind of colonoscopy. Yeah. No anesthesia.
Three children under the age of 10 and 2 senior adults. You want to take a guess? Just go ahead. Just throw something out there.
Yeah, so it worked out.
It lacked $20 bill of being
$200?
$300.
Oh, but you had a good time
we had a good time.
Chitlins, didn't you?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And, it was a lot of fun inside. We went to Quincy one day, and then we went to Hannibal one day, and then we went to Six Flags one day, and then we went to Nashville. And had the three grandkids. They had a ball.
I'd like to be your mortgage lender.
Yeah, I was the biggest.
You signed a second before you went?
I was the biggest kid of all, but we had a really good time, and we done a lot of things, seen a lot of things. So I was looking at the sign at the Six Flags, the sign that says if you have high blood pressure, cardiac-related illnesses or surgeries, hypertension, medications for heart, any physical ailments, etc. The sign, the warning sign.
Sure.
Nothing. So I'm like standing in line, and this ticket taker lady at the ride. This is a whirlybird ride. You know what a whirlybird ride is, but she's going down through they're telling you all this stuff. I guess this is a new thing now. I don't know.
Well, at least they didn't ask you if you're pregnant.
No, they didn't. But if I had been, I couldn't have.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm in the line, and I'm the only one there holding my hand up, and people are really starting to look at me like, so she finally acknowledges that I got my hand in the air and says, yes, and I said, well, what about enlarged prostates? I see that's not on the sign. There's nothing about that on there. And So anyway, that was my
Well, that does create extra momentum.
Yes.
As it flings you out there,
Well,
it takes extra, you might fall off the ride. It might
yes,
test the straps.
The centrifugal
that
force
huge prostate. It'd be incredible.
You're supposed to keep all hands, arms, legs, and limbs inside.
But your prostate hangs out. I'm sorry.
It's nothing I can do
overflowing
about that,
the chair.
It's just one of those things. No, we had a good time. It was a lot of fun. Oh, my.
Bud's the only guy that, when you talk about muffin tops, you think of Bud's prostate.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe the term is pronounced. It's pronounced.
Oh, my God.
Anyway.
Buy stock in Flomax, quick. Hey, well, we want to talk with Dr. Keith Thome, a good friend of mine, new addition to the staff. Well, not new anymore. He's been here since, last winter, right? Mm-hmm. And does all kinds of things. I mean, this guy does more surgeries than Carter has little liver pills.
I'm telling you, all kinds of things.
And also we want to talk about healthcare reform because he gave an address to the United Nations. What was it? You gave an address to a very prestigious group recently.
The Missouri chapter of the American College of Surgeons.
Yeah, and the American College of Surgeons is like the Grand Poobah group of surgeons, right? That's your certifying group.
Mm-hmm, yes.
Right. So, and when was that? In June, correct?
Yeah, about a month and a half ago.
Good. And I heard it was well received. So we'll talk about that as well. And, of course, invite your phone calls here on Healthy You because if you have a surgical concern or maybe a little curve or lump here or there that you'd like removed, he's capable of doing those kind of things.
Yeah.
There's those places and those curves in places we don't want them,
Yeah. And what's going to happen to me?
And veins. Talk about veins as well. So we'll talk about all that kind of
what all
stuff.
do I have to do to get ready, and will it hurt, and and on and on and on.
And we'd like to maybe approach some different things. I'd like to talk a little bit about nutrition before surgery, because after all, we are all pre-surgical patients, if you think about it. I mean, ultimately, most people, what percentage of people get through life without a surgical procedure?
That'd be a good
Very
question.
few.
Very few, right?
But the elderly who walk in and say they're on no medications and no previous surgeries is very rare. You see about 2 or 3 of those a year, and that's about it.
Yeah. And so the things that we talk about all the times in terms of health and wellness and the things that people get tired of hearing about really do play into the success of a surgery and reducing your risk of having problems with anesthesia with surgery. Right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's go through a little bit of your biography because I think it's an impressive one. It's important that people understand, from whence their surgeons come. And you weren't trained at the University of, Guatemala or anything. I mean, you went to a prestigious. Not that people that went to the University of Guatemala. I'm not.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
Not casting aspersions here, but I mean, he went to a very prestigious university.
Yeah, University of Wisconsin in Madison for medical school. Yeah. And then from there, I went to Loyola University in Chicago, 5 years of general surgical training. And from there, I decided to go into academics. So became an instructor of surgery and later a professor or associate professor of surgery at the University of Mississippi in Jackson. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I went into private practice.
And you did a lot of trauma work, I know, down in Jackson as well, didn't you?
Yes. For a number of years, I was a director of trauma there. And we had about 10 admissions a night of trauma. Probably half of them were penetrating. Not all of them were operative, but lots of action.
Wow.
People going to Six Flags buying tickets.
That's right. We never operate on a prostate, but
people coming with sharp instruments still lodged where they.
Jackson, Mississippi. So you saw everything from gunshot wounds to knife, the whole gamut.
Absolutely. I guess, yeah. And in Chicago, it was more drug related. In Mississippi, it seemed to be more family versus family, or just weird events like that. So it was a different, but just as severe. Yeah.
And I guess full disclosure here, even though this is Kansas City Chief and St. Louis Rams country, he's a cheesehead, folks. But don't hold that against him.
That's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go Green Bay.
We do. Yeah. Because we do have some Royal fans in this area occasionally, too. So we're tolerant.
Yeah. We get over with it. And has not only interest, of course, in trauma and already has used his expertise there. I know that, Keith, you've already been involved in a couple of really very acute and very dire circumstances here at Scotland County since you've been here.
Yeah, it's probably not as busy than what I expected, but you never know. One day a farmer or someone comes in with a bad injury, and we're able to handle it here.
Yeah, so you haven't practiced in the rural setting before, so I guess it's a new genre of injuries that you're seeing. But it really becomes sort of a theme. I mean, that's the way we're trained, is to understand how things work, understand how things get broken, and, no matter how they're broken, they tend to break in patterns, right? Yep. And so you learn how to deal with those. But you also have to be a bit of you have to be creative. You have to be an artist, You have to almost be a jazz player, except with a scalpel when you're in the operating room, particularly with trauma, because everything's a little different, isn't it?
Every case is different, and the whole idea is that's why you need to go to someone who has good training and has a good structure, baseline of how to do it right.
All right, that's Dr. Keith Thome, a general surgeon and all-around good guy. Really, really a nice fellow. It's rare to get great surgeon and great personality in the same individual. I'm just saying, surgeons, there's a stereotype, and you can call them what they will, but stereotypes usually are well-earned, and many surgeons don't have that warm and, kind and caring attitude like Dr. Thome. And so does Dr. Miller-Parrish, by the way. I think we're very, very fortunate to have surgeons who are excellent and nice people.
Dr. Weaver, too.
And of course, Dr. Weaver, you heard her a couple of weeks ago. All right, we'll take it out here into the break and then invite your phone calls at 465-7225.
And 1-800-748-7875.
Dr. Keith Thome and All Things Surgical when we come back.
Planted that seed, busted his ass for you and me. You're gonna harvest moon in Kansas. They'd understand why God made those fly-over states.
For generations, from fathers to their sons and daughters, then to their children, fans have learned about America's pastime by listening to Cardinals baseball. For us in the Midwest, it's part of our identity. It's Harry Carey, Jack Buck, Mike Shannon, moments in time that live with us forever because of what we heard on our radio. We'll make more memories this season. Listen to Cardinals baseball.
The greatest memories of Cardinal baseball on KMEM, Memphis, Missouri.
We're going for 12 in 12.
Hi, honey.
Mom, guess what?
What?
I'm pregnant.
Oh, my God. My baby's going to have a baby.
You're going to be a grandma.
I'm too young to be a grandma.
You'll be a young grandma.
Well, I've got some grandmotherly advice for you, young lady. Get your cell phone.
I'm on my cell phone talking to you.
Oh, yeah. When we're done, you have to sign up for Text for Baby.
I've only been a mother for an hour. What's Text for Baby?
Mrs. Williams' daughter Trinity used Text for Baby when she was pregnant. And she got free text messages every week on what to eat, labor and delivery, appointment reminders, things to keep your baby safe and protected.
I'll think about it.
Well, what's to think about? It's free. The phone company won't charge you for the messages, and it's easy. Just text BABY to 511-411 to get started.
I think I'll do it.
Good.
BABY 511-411.
Yeah.
Sign up for Text for Baby today to get free health and safety tips tailored to your baby's due date, so you get helpful advice when you need it.
Mom, what if it's twins?
A message from the Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies Coalition.
I feel a shiver run up my spine. I feel the warmth of her hand in mine. Ooh, I hear laughter in the rain, walking hand in hand with the one I love. Ooh, how I love the rainy days and the happy way I feel inside. After a while, we run under a tree.
Wouldn't it be nice to run under a tree because it's raining, not to get out of the blaring sun?
Yes.
Do you think if you play that enough, the gods will listen and rain on us?
That, along with a combination rain dance over the course of the next 2 months, eventually is going to yield something, one would hope.
I asked Rick Fisher if he could please bring us some rain, maybe put on the loincloth and the headdress and do his traditional Indian rain dance.
Toga.
He refused to do it.
He didn't.
I don't know.
He wasn't going to do it.
But that would, I would think that would probably bring some rain.
Well, you can't find hardly anyone that wants to do that now because they're all afraid of failing.
Yeah, that's true.
You know.
Yeah. So things are dire, and we continue to keep the rain watch out here. Maybe I heard there's something about maybe a little pop-up storm tomorrow or next day.
Perhaps.
Who knows?
Yeah.
They keep teasing us, though, with that. I mean, last week we heard the same thing. Nothing happened. I don't know. It's bad. It's bad. But make sure you stay well hydrated. I think people have gotten the message. and are doing a pretty good job. I've been sort of informally monitoring the emergency room, and I haven't heard a ton of problems that way.
Yeah.
I know in St. Louis there's like over a couple dozen deaths that have been reported.
Yes.
However, in the urban centers there's a lot of that going on. Dr. Keith Thome is our guest, general surgeon, and of course on staff here at the Scotland County Hospital, seeing patients at Memphis Medical Services. What days are you in the office, Keith?
I'm there on Monday through Friday and Thursday if someone has an urgency.
Right. But
so I'm really there every day.
Yeah, so available every day. But there's certain days that I know you like to sort of carve out for just trying to focus on the getting into the operating room. Let's talk about healthcare reform. Okay.
All right.
It's an interesting topic. It's something. And producer Elisa is going, oh no, what are they going to talk about?
Yeah,
well, you gave a presentation. I think it's on everyone's mind.
It's a touchy topic, but if we have the time to talk about it, I gave a 10-point solution to the problems of healthcare and how to solve them.
Okay.
And a lot of people just, they'll talk kind of superficially about problems, but I had what I considered the true answer to how to solve our healthcare problems in the United States.
Okay.
And I must say, and I'm not trying to brag, is at the end, I had a number of the surgeons come up and look at me and say, you need to run for president of the United States.
Wow.
And it's like, well, that was nice of them to say that. But I think when you hear it today, it'll be the first time if someone actually puts concrete answers to many of the problems that are out there.
All right. So we know what the problems are. The problems are access. It's hard to get in to see a doc if you don't have insurance, right? If you're underinsured or uninsured.
Well, I'd have to emphasize you have to start out by saying the whole idea about socialized medicine, is that a good thing? Or a whole idea of entitlements. And you have to start at the basics. And I personally I do not believe in entitlements. People have to work for what they get. And the whole idea, with that thought, you have to remove the middlemen. The middlemen include everything from insurance companies and everything else. So there are a lot of the basics you have to talk about before you get started. But the whole idea is I do not believe in entitlements.
Okay.
And I would go from there. So
what are the solutions?
So bullet point number 1 was what I call judicial American Revolution. And let's just hit to the topic of lawsuits and everything else.
Okay.
It is everyone's American right to go to court to seek justice for medical problems. And we know there are some mistakes that are made out there by physicians. Let's say a surgeon who's taking cocaine and operates on someone and messes up. Now that is
there have been impaired physicians.
And that's what I'm talking about. That are truly absurd things that are being done that people need to be sued about, and there should be a reason or a way to do that. But I want to tell the public who are listening that most physicians wake up in the morning and they want their patients to do well, and they had no intentions of things that actually were going to go wrong that day. I mean, everybody tries their best, and if you go through college and take a physics class, there's something called entropy, and entropy is things go from order to disorder, and that's the same thing in the human body.
Prostates get larger.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to tell the public
about me again.
that people do get sick and bad things happen, infections occur. It's not because the doctor really wanted that or he was negligent at all.
I don't know about you, but I literally do lose sleep when I have a patient that gets a post-op infection. I mean, I think we all really struggle and worry and wring our hands over any time things don't go exactly according to Hoyle. But I think it's hard to distinguish in many people's minds the difference between a bad outcome and a negligent application, a negligent treatment, right?
In true malpractice cases are somewhat rare. If you actually look at the numbers, 80% are usually dismissed, and 10% have some mediation, and 10% are actually guilty. But so the first point is to change the court system. We need to have 10 district medical courts in the United States. And what I would do, right now we have what's called appeal courts. There's 10 of them, 10 sections of the United States. You change those same courts that are actually built, they wouldn't cost any money, into district medical courts. You now hire, or you actually by a random draw, just like in the Vietnam War when you had a draft, you draft 5 physicians to be on that court for 1 year. And you pay them a moderate amount of money because they're actually going to save the whole country billions and billions of dollars. And the whole idea is every lawsuit would go to those medical district courts. And the whole idea is those 5 basically judges who know about medicine, who can actually give a reasonable thought about what's going on, have 15 days to, or do roughly 15 cases a month at least, and they have 60 days to process a whole case.
Okay, so rapid turnaround.
Rapid turnaround.
Okay, but I can hear the lawyers in our audience and others who maybe have felt that they've been wronged by the medical system saying, but wait a minute, you're stacking the deck here. I mean, it's like the wolf watching the chicken house here. I mean, you got doctors regulating doctors. I mean, come on. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Absolutely, that's the thought. But then the whole system is much deeper than that. The legal system itself is much different than the medical system. The legal system from the beginning has never been able to look at itself. The lawyers can't judge themselves. Where we in medicine, in the hospitals, every week are going to meetings looking at each other saying, hey, what'd you do wrong? We're always...
It's called peer review, and we do it all the time.
We do it all the time.
Every case
but
that has anything...
Do the lawyers do that? Absolutely not.
Well, I don't know. They do have a bar, and you can get sued for legal malpractice.
And I'll get into how they should be monitored too. But the whole point is to have 10 district medical courts.
Okay.
And with that, the people listening need to understand the anatomy of a lawsuit, because when you want to sue a doctor, it turns out to be a 10-year course sometimes. And it not only is there the pre-trial, there's a trial, there's all the preparation. It is an economic disaster.
And in the end, I mean, there was a Harvard study done by the Harvard, I think it was a business school, that looked at lawsuits and it looked at the outcomes. And it turned out that a minority of the people who were truly wronged got compensation out of that process. And a majority of people that should have sued but didn't, those kind of things, they just looked at consecutive cases in the hospital. So the system really doesn't, address what we think it should in terms of justice. What's point number 2? Let's move down the road.
Well, on that same point, the liability caps for suffering, that's a big issue. I think there should be a $100,000 max for that. Okay. And legal fees should only be about 10% of what the payout is to the lawyers, because they're just trying to collect as much as they can on that.
How does this translate, though, to more cost in terms of, for patients? I mean, the problems that healthcare for
what will turn out in the long run is everyone's insurances will go down, malpractice insurances will go down, there'll be less defensive medicine in the emergency room, less defensive medicine in the clinics.
We all know that, I don't think it's any secret, doctors overtest, hospitals overtest, everyone overtest, because you can't miss the 1 in a million thing, okay? And so in that, we pursue 999,999 tests to find one problem. That becomes an ethical and philosophical issue. If you're the 1 in a million who was missed, you feel like you were wronged.
Right.
That's a problem.
So there's more to that point, but let's move on to the next point. Next one's a new statute, and this works in England, works very good. If the defendant is not guilty, the petitioner pays.
Okay, loser pays. Yep. Loser pays. Okay.
And we can talk 10 minutes about that, but I think you get the gist of that.
So we're talking about judicial reform. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Next one is the appeal of Obamacare, which I call socialized medicine.
Okay.
The undue entitlement mentality, that's got to change. People have to understand, to get the best medical care, it costs money. Nothing is free in this world. And so
you're not sympathetic with those who say it's a right, and therefore it ought to be supplied by the government.
Correct, but I have a solution to that later in one of my points.
Okay.
But in general, yes. The fourth bullet point is health savings accounts. That's an excellent way to solve a lot of our problems.
And the legislation that has been passed and approved by the Supreme Court actually guts healthcare savings accounts. And those have been proven empirically to do very well. What are those briefly, just so people know that they haven't heard about healthcare savings accounts?
Well, basically, every family saves their own money. What my thought is up to $5,000.
Pre-tax.
Right. And I think families should have health insurance, but for anything over $5,000. We currently, on the average, spend $3,700 per family every year. And so that I would make a limit up to $5,000. And then it gets to be just like capitalism, where you go in and you ask your doctor, well, do I really need that CAT scan? And if he's able to convince you in a logical fashion, yeah, you need that, there would be so much cost savings instead of defensive medicine. So the whole idea is out of your own pocket, you pay up to $5,000. You might not even spend $100 the whole year.
So the economic argument is, unless a person has skin in the game, they're going to tend to overutilize services.
Absolutely.
If you can go into the grocery store and say, I'd like the prime rib and the lobster and the shrimp and the key lime pie, and put it on Dr. Thome's bill, that's pretty appealing politically, right? And that's where we're at now.
Right.
Okay.
And you need to look at the other side of the story. You have, and I apologize for those out there, but you have Medicaid patients who come to the emergency room every night for CAT scans and everything else, and it's like they're paying $5 down, and it's just we can't.
Okay.
It's a huge expense.
So and look, it's empirically that, and they've even shown with things like the food stamp program, that when folks participate in the market and they have a debit card, as I understand, they tend to involve the market with their choices, and therefore, there's, again, if you're having to bargain like anything else, go to the lumber store, go to wherever you go to your contractor, and you're saying let's invoke that somehow in the medical care.
Absolutely.
Okay. Next point.
Next point is allow health insurance companies to sell health insurance across state lines. Right now, you can only buy health insurance for at least for the doctors within the same states. Once you allow an insurance company to go across state lines, all the competition allow the prices to be a lot better. And
basically what happens is each state has its own demands that if you're going to supply, say your employer X or Y, and you're going to buy insurance from an insurer in the state, you have to provide for, in some states, it's unbelievable. In California, New York, the prescribed benefit plan, which on a national level is coming with the reform measure, commonly referred to as Obamacare. They say, you have to have mammograms, good thing. You have to have pap smears. You have to cover birth control. You have to cover this. Right. We all agree those are great things. The question is, when each state has its own separate palette of what you have to provide as an insurance company, that then limits the regulation and the purchase to those insurance companies doing business in that state.
And that's probably going to be compounded because you'll have now the state rules plus the federal overlook rules, so it'll be really diluted.
So
we're running out of time in this segment. Let's go on.
And a listener needs to understand on that topic, one could have a vasectomy, but be forced in their state to cover for birth control or for births. It's just ridiculous. So
that's right.
I think can solve a lot of that problems. And in addition, like malpractice insurance in southern Florida, $191,000 a year.
Yeah.
Minnesota, the same exact insurance, $11,000.
Wow.
So those things need to be changed.
Major changes.
Next topic, a bullet point would be centers of excellence.
Yeah.
And now, as a general surgeon, someone who does a lot of different things, this really goes against what I do. But in a sense, we know
you'd be cutting yourself out of business. You go to the appendectomy center. You go to the reflux center.
We know from the literature that if you go to a surgeon who does a lot of something, you get the best results.
Right.
And that's been proven over and over. So centers of excellence.
I understand you do a lot of colonoscopies.
Yes.
Oh, wait.
Bud.
That's another
Bud,
show.
You listening? Okay, go ahead.
And with that centers of excellence, one of the questions we didn't answer yet is, what are you going to do with these people who just don't have insurance?
Right.
And I believe there should be 2 hospitals per state that are lawsuit prohibited that take care of all the veterans and take care of the uninsured. Because it's a new, different time. We got better travel, better communication, and I don't see any state in the United States that someone couldn't travel to one of the 2 hospitals to get what you would consider free care.
Yeah. Well, I think now we do have for those who are either underinsured or uninsured, or those who have uninsurable problems because of pre-existing problems, which is a major issue. There are the high-risk pools. For instance, the states have already done that. Missouri has a high-risk pool. And so, but you're talking about the venue where the care is delivered, and you would specify that. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And with that, that's about 100 hospitals. There's 50 states, and that costs about $3 billion, but that's minimal compared to the $2 trillion in administrative fees that they're spending right now on all this problem. So at those centers of excellence, they could do medical research, drug development.
Sure.
I would make sure it wouldn't be government run. It would be nonprofit and be privately ran. And that way you keep the government out of it.
Okay. I can see you're a big government guy. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
The next topic was, and we all are going to groan when I say this, is develop national EMR. EMR stands for electronic medical records. It's a huge topic, but in general, if all the hospitals were communicating by computer and everything was smooth, you'd save a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a big if, because there's about 500 vendors now, again, because the government mandated that we have an EMR, and when the government says you have to have a product, the vendors come out of the woodwork like termites, and so then it's a problem.
But on that
there's
topic,
not a lot of standardization, although we're coming.
Right, it's getting better and better. But on that topic, 65% of the costs are administrative.
Yeah,
and I see in the future people having electronic medical cards, all their information on a credit card, and you hand it over.
Well, they can load up a debit card at Home Depot. Why can't they do it? Load up with your latest information. Yeah.
Okay. Now the next bullet topic will make everyone smile at home, and you all know what this is about. It's called, I call it equalizing patient costs. Right now, we basically have 6 type of people who walk into the office or emergency room. You have the self-pay. You have one that has insurance. You have someone who has 2 insurances. You have someone who has Medicare. You have someone who has Medicare and insurance, and then you have the Medicaid. And everybody out in the audience knows that each one of those types of patients with those type of insurances pay differently. It's completely ridiculous. And everything needs to be standardized. Should be one cost, one CPT code. And you may or may not know, but it's illegal technically for physicians and hospitals to negotiate these CPT codes, these costs, but that should be allowed. And we need to standardize these costs on everything so that the insurance companies are not getting raked over, and that it's a very big problem, but that needs to be standardized.
Okay. Is that it?
Nope, there's a couple more.
Okay.
2 more bullet points. One is for the future, virtual physician visits.
Yeah.
I believe that with today's technology, the medical students need to learn how to deal with patients just over the computer. There are a lot of small things that can be dealt with where patients don't have to come to the office.
But unfortunately, right now, that is not a billable, chargeable event. So,
correct.
Physicians are taking of their time. Their staff is taking their time to maybe answer a problem.
And there has to be a whole lot of changes.
Right.
Now, if you don't solve the legal medical issue, then this is out the door. But people need to understand if they're getting advice over the computer, that they really have a problem, they need to go see a physician, but they can't sue someone for advice over the computer.
Yeah.
And last bullet is return to common sense patient privacy laws and basically rewrite HIPAA laws and rewrite the practice management laws, JCHO.
Yeah.
They are just bogging down the big companies, the Caterpillar companies, the Microsoft, all the big companies. There are people who generate so many laws, enforce them, and then they become their own enforcers. There's so much red tape.
Well, and with the HIPAA, it's so preposterous. I mean, I've
crazy.
had couples with infertility come in the office, and maybe I meet the fella, and then a month later I get a test on the patient, and I call up to give her results, and he answers the phone. Well, how was this? How was that test? I can't tell you, because she didn't give me her explicit instructions that I could tell you. It gets ridiculous. And a lot of times I know medical personnel, whether they be nurses, doctors, take the heat because family members feel as though we're being rude by not having a civil discussion with them, when obviously, especially in a community like this, you see them at church, you see them at the drugstore, you see them wherever, and yet you're not allowed to say anything. And it was just out of compassion. Like, doing well. We took out her appendix. Oh, my God, go to jail. Give me a break.
Right.
So it's a problem. And I think in the end, we have lost our civility. Well, Dr. Keith Thome is with us, and we hope that after this break, he'll tell us how he really thinks. So about healthcare reform. Thanks,
Can we
Keith.
get your opinion on that?
Yeah, I happen to agree with a lot of your bullet points. I think that when patients and doctors communicate and have a professional relationship, the less that we get in the way of that, whether it's government, bureaucrats, the legal system, whatever, I think the better the care is.
Absolutely.
Fair summary?
Fair summary.
All right. When we come back, let's talk about PillCam. What's PillCam? We'll talk about it with Dr. Keith Thome when we come back here on Healthy You. Stay right there, please.
It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. You or someone you know is really scared they might be pregnant, and there's so many questions. What choices are there? How will this affect my future? Who will help me? You need information and answers to questions. We at Memphis Area Pregnancy Care Center care about you, and we are here to listen, to provide information, and to remind you there is hope for your future. Contact Memphis Area Pregnancy Care Center at 660-465-7179 for an appointment. All of our services are free and confidential.
Mike, it's one of the aspects of being a Cardinals broadcaster. We know every night the ballpark is packed, and Cardinal Nation has a chance to take in this.
Long one into left field.
There, Schumacher drives it to left for a hit.
Oh, yeah. Freeze is just to the two-run home run.
This has a chance to go. It's a goner.
There's no better fan base in all of sports, and you can listen to the calls all season long.
On your sports leader in the tri-state, KMEM Memphis, Missouri.
We're going for 12 in 12.
A foggy day in London town.
I'm sorry, we're going to listen to this whole thing because I like it.
Had me down.
I like it too.
It's great. Well, I know you like it. You chose it.
Well, now I have to be fully rounded in my decisions on that.
My wife saw this guy in person, Michael Bublé. I was afraid she was going to call the lawyer. I agree. He's cool. All right, Michael Bublé on Healthy You. I want to talk about PillCam in just a minute, but we had a caller who said, Dr. Thome, would you please run for president? No, the caller didn't say that. Where is the best place for a peritoneal tube, and where do you have the best luck to place that? Let's talk about what a peritoneal tube is and what that means and what it might be used for.
I believe that patient's talking about peritoneal dialysis.
Which is?
This is a way to artificially filtrate the blood system, do what the kidneys normally do, but do it outside the body through a machine or through liquids.
Yeah.
And so you put a tube inside the abdomen, put some fluid into the abdomen, let it sit there for a little while, and then drain it, and that gets rid of the toxins.
Yeah. So this is sort of a basic science experiment, right? I mean, that you used to do in school, right?
Yeah, and it works pretty good,
when you took a thin membrane, and on one side of the membrane was some food coloring in some water, and on the other side of the membrane was plain water, and things will sort of migrate to where they're less concentrated. That's why heat goes to cold and whatever.
So to answer his question,
generally
is put in the lower quadrants of the abdomen, and I personally would put that in the right lower quadrant because there's more room to get it in safely. There's something called a sigmoid colon on the left, and it's probably more people have in the right lower quadrant.
I'm glad you qualified that. I thought when you were like the right lower quadrant is maybe something to do with your politics, but I'm just saying, I don't know. Okay, so there you go, peritoneal dialysis, and it's really they use that often in the earlier stages before they do extracorporeal or through the machine dialysis. Right?
Correct.
Yeah, and I've had patients that have used this successfully for quite a while. But there's potential complications, like you say.
Infection.
Infection and so forth, because you have to change. You're actually putting body fluid you're putting fluid in a body cavity, and so then that can be an issue.
And there's a special way to do it correctly where you tunnel it instead of going straight in. So it's little ways to make it better.
That makes me think about self-care in medicine.
Right.
And Bud, don't you think in your time just observing, the hospital and goings on and being a, emergency medical person and stuff, don't you think we've involved people more and more with their own care and with their family's care, either by necessity or by desire?
Well, I think both, but hopefully a great deal of it is by desire, because there's an amount of input that I'm just going to say it. There's two sides to the bed. There's the one side of the bed where you have the practitioner, and the other side of the bed where the patient is.
And what sleep number are you?
Yeah, pretty much. But then you have that physician who's been in a car wreck and lost a spleen, or whatever the case is, and sometimes comes away from that with a maybe just a little bit different perception of what they'd been doing for years, and it's a remarkable thing, because it draws both sides closer to one another, because the participation in it is really important for the actual end-up thing, which is what we're all here for, and that's the health care of the individual and caring for people. So I think it works really well when you have the cooperation of both.
I know you do PillCam. What is PillCam?
PillCam is an instrument, looks like a pill that you would swallow, that has multiple cameras in it, and it is the only way to look at the small intestine.
Is it a pill you would swallow or a pill your horse would swallow?
I have one here right in my pocket. I know this is a radio show.
Look at that.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's the size of a vitamin pill, and it's
goodness,
it's really high tech.
Oh.
And you swallow it, just like take a glass of water and have a little swallow, and you have some patches on your abdomen, and this will go through your stomach, then your small intestine, and into your colon, and it takes pictures the whole way.
And they're very good. I've seen them.
They're really high quality, and you can see, almost microscopic. You can see almost the villi, the hair of the small intestine. So,
now what's that it says on the side of it? YouTube?
No.
That's great. That's a HIPAA violation. So what do you? I mean, why you can already look down someone's gullet into their stomach with a scope, and you can look the other way if Bud would ever schedule it.
But it's hard to get
that. So what? I mean, why are you going to use a PillCam?
So the whole idea is the small intestine is very thin and pliable, and it's hard to get a scope down the entire small intestine. So it's for many, many years we're unable to ever look at the inside of the small intestine. Now we have a way. When you do a CAT scan, CAT scans are not real accurate at looking at the inside of the small intestine. They could see maybe a perforation or something bad on the outside, but it's not very good at looking at the inside.
So this is the world tour.
This is a world tour. And specifically, if you have a diagnosis of inflammatory bowel disease, like Crohn's disease, it's really awesome. Someone who has a GI bleed and they get the colonoscopy or the upper endoscopy and everything's negative, the insurance companies will pay for this, and it's a great way to look for tumor, vascular lesions, and things like that.
That's cool. And the time is flying by, and it's time to pay some bills. Got to go to break again. When we come back, one thing that doctors are really good at and seem to be selected for is ongoing education and learning and expanding. I mean, and we're thankful for that, because that's, we got to stay up to speed with the new data, because what we learned. Everything I learned in kindergarten, I didn't learn in med school, something like that.
Sure.
I mean, and what we learn in med school, we find often is being replaced by new information. And so we know Dr. Thome does that, but he's also involved in another learning experience in his life. And when we get back, we'll talk about it.
Economy got you down. Sick and tired of all the empty promises those big city fat cat politicians are spouting? Well, fret no longer, folks, because your next president is promising nothing but your favorite rock and roll hits from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s every Sunday night from 6 to midnight here on KMEM. So for the best rock and roll hits on Sunday nights, and for the good of the nation, Elect Donnie Middleton for president in 2012. Or whenever. Paid for by the National Cold Frosty Beverage Super PAC.
Hey, Mike, what are you doing with all those rings?
Well, John, these are my World Series rings, and I never get sick of polishing these babies. Another one for my collection, thanks to David Freeze. Get up, baby! Get up, baby! Get up! Oh, yeah! David Freeze has just sent us into game number 7.
Let's go for 12 in 12, and make sure to catch all the action.
On your sports leader in the Tri-States, KMEM Memphis, Missouri.
Phenomenal! Just fantastic!
And we're back. It's 10 till the hour. And Dr. Thome has taken up a new hobby. And I know that you're a very active guy in general. I know you're sports active. You run and bike and all that, right?
Yeah.
But now you've got a new pursuit. Tell us about it.
Yes, I'm learning to fly.
Wings must get tired, huh? Just kidding.
It's a great opportunity.
He is an amazing guy,
in
but
Memphis,
he does need a plane to fly.
Yeah, so I'm learning to fly.
And you've been learning to fly here, right?
Yeah, here in Memphis.
That's
it was
great.
awesome. I usually go out early in the morning.
Yeah, and you've done, you've gone, I guess, back, where, to Quincy, I heard?
Yeah, I've gone to Quincy and Burlington and
you're learning
Macon.
to fly by instruments and everything? And
that'll be the future. I mean, I know how, but that's called IFR. That's the next stage after this.
We have quite an active flight group here who either were pilots or still are in many cases.
Big group, a great group.
And, of course, many of them were involved in the pheasant and bringing the pheasant back here.
Absolutely.
Have you had a chance to take a peek at the pheasant?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, it sure is. I grew up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, where the Experimental Aircraft Association is, and they're having a big fly-in this week, and so that's a big thing.
Yeah. Didn't John Denver die in one of those? I think so, yeah.
Out west, yeah.
Yeah, out west. I don't know about the experimental part of the aviation thing. I'd like someone else to experiment. I want that. I want to. Now, do you picture yourself ever like flying one of these home-built kits? You can buy kits, build your own.
No, probably not.
Yeah,
No, probably just a routine Cessna.
A routine Cessna. A routine Cessna. Yeah. Stop up at Shopko, pick up my Cessna. Would you write fries with that? Yeah, I don't think so. The other thing I want to ask you about, the top 3 most dangerous habits that we as pre-surgical patients, all of us will be, as you said, most of us will be surgical patients. You never know when. Your appendix may be just around the corner, or your gallbladder, or your whatever. What are the 3 most sort of harmful things in anticipating surgery that we can do, that we do to ourselves and shouldn't do to ourselves?
Well, this is a personal opinion, and this whole hour has been a lot of personal opinions. But number 1 is obesity and exercise. If someone really...
And why is that? Let's go through why that is. I don't know if people appreciate that. And I mean, I think we need to have a scientific exposition of why it's a problem.
Well, scientifically, as far as the problem is when you have excess weight, there's lots of areas that have lack of blood vessels in those areas.
Yep.
And those lack of blood vessels, if you don't get blood to that area, it has a high propensity for infection and other problems. So basically that. But when you're overweight, there are many issues that occur with that, cardiac and pulmonary and things like that.
And the obesity tends to go hand in hand with other, what we call comorbidities, right? I mean, folks that are overweight tend to have blood pressure problems and or diabetes and so
It's interesting, if you own a horse and you horse race them, they get treated with a $1 million diet and exercise program, but we don't treat our own bodies that way.
Yeah, yeah. And how about from a technical perspective? I mean, just doing the surgery makes it a little tougher.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's sort of like, it increases the difficulty level. It's like the Olympics are coming up and you'll see the swimming competition. And, okay, I choose to do, just a simple jackknife dive. Okay, that's a difficulty of 1.0. Better get it perfect, and usually will.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if, you come in and you have, if you've smoked and you have, Was that the other one you wanted to mention?
Well, I think it combines self-destruction of your body different ways. Yeah. Next thing is people don't think about much we're on so many medications nowadays, but there are many of those medications that affect the platelets, the clotting when we operate. And you could ask a patient, are you on aspirin? They'll say no. Or did you take anything that affects your platelets? They say no, but there are actually a number of medications that do affect the platelets. So that's something they could look out for and ask their pharmacist or ask the doctor when they come in.
And I think both doctors, nurses, and patients sometimes forget about supplements and to ask about that. I mean, I think we're getting better at it, and I know I do routinely, probably you do, but it's once in a while, those are the kind of things that fall through the cracks. The more complicated the hard medical history, sometimes we forget those things. And those are the folks who are often at the Great Wall of China, wall of supplements, taking bags of supplements, and you don't know about them. And then things like ginkgo biloba and ginger and even omega-3 fish oils and so forth can affect platelet function. And then, when you have excess blood loss, we're looking at one another in the operating room going, what's going on here? And afterwards you find out there were some issues with supplements. So make sure and tell your doc about those. So,
and last, maybe healthy cleansing of the body. Some people don't.
Hygiene. Hygiene's important. Yeah, because we've got billions and billions of bacteria on our skin. The less, the better. What do you say about the MRSA thing? I mean, I know that as surgeons, we all are worried about that, and people getting MRSA infections. We know now that it used to be when the antibiotic-resistant germ story came out a couple decades ago, and it really started becoming part of our medical literature and then the popular literature. It was really about hospital-acquired type things. And now we're seeing that the numbers suggest that things like community-acquired methicillin resistant, that's a type of a penicillin resistant staph, are more common. And they're actually a different, brand of organism. But that's a real issue, isn't it?
Right. And when I was in medical school, or my first few years, there wasn't as many antibiotics given out. But because of defensive medicine and the physicians being afraid of being sued or their patients basically calling them a bad doctor because they didn't get anything.
For the viral cold.
Yep, for the viral cold.
That happens a lot.
Everybody gets placed on antibiotics, and if you didn't, they're going to go look and get their lawyer and make sure, because if there's a problem, then you did it wrong. So what happens, all these antibiotics out there, and they get resistant bacteria, and now you have problems in the community instead of just in the hospital.
Yeah. And so the message there is, if your doc doesn't want to give you antibiotics because he tells you, he looks at you or talks to you, he says, well, you have a cold, and 99% of the time those are viral and it'll run its course. And, stop smoking and, doing all the right things that you need to do, eat good nutrition, and your cold will get better sooner and so forth. They're not saying that to be hateful, right? I mean, it's much easier actually to go ahead and just pick up the phone and call in a prescription. And I know everyone wants that prescription, but in the end, it is not often the right thing to do in that circumstance. Of course, there are reasons to give antibiotics, but
correct.
So, when the doc's talking to you about, we're actually processing all these things, putting all of these facts about you and the public health issues and the potential for your future all in ours collectively. I mean, as a group of patients. Heck, I'm going to be a patient. Maybe Dr. Thome will be a patient. I don't want it.
Can I ask you a question? Do you guys just hate to see us come in the office? I'm 65. I'm on, this is probably a HIPAA violation, but I'm the one telling you, so big deal. I'm on 4 or 5 medications.
Yeah.
I've got a history that's 65 years old, plus, maybe allergy 1, allergy 2, whatever, but it's like, and maybe I'm going to have surgery or whatever, but the point is, it's sure seems to me like there'd be a lot of places where it would be easy to slip and forget something.
Well, this probably relates to what you were talking about earlier, Keith. If people had that little debit card-like thing, the health history card.
Right.
Or, for those of you who like government and like entitlements, a chip under your, that's what I'm thinking. Oh, put that chip under the skin. Scanner or forearm, please.
But even if
a
patient forgets most of their medical history, the physician can ask
we can get what we need to know.
What we need to make it a safe operation.
But it's always good to have someone else in your family know a very intimate medical history about you. Wife, husband, mother, sister, brother, daughter. Hey, bud, about that colonoscopy.
What about it?
We're off the air now. Talk to Dr. Thome.
I already got one at
All
Six
right,
Flags.
guys.
I told you.
Keith, we love you, bro. Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
Glad you're here. If you want to schedule an appointment, 465-2828. Give Dr. Thome a call, okay?
Thank you, Doctor.
All right, thanks all for being here. Remember this week, be well, share it with someone you love. I won't see you next week, but I'll see you the following week. Take care.
You're listening to the best in area news, weather, community activities, and sports in Northeast Missouri and Southeast Iowa on America's Best Country 100.5. We are KMEM Memphis, Missouri.